back to another episode of Ministry Minutes. I'm Luis and this is Sam, and today we're going to be talking to you guys about a story from the book of Luke, and we're going to hop on this road to Emmaus together. So
I feel like the road to Emmaus is one that we hear often, especially during Holy Week as we're preparing for Easter. And this is one that is a favorite of mine. I feel like I say that every time I talk about a biblical story. But I feel like this is a story that really does allow us to kind of step into that role of disciple. And it gives us the opportunity to kind of to place ourselves in that space. And so if you're not familiar with the story of Road to Emmaus, I highly suggest that you look it up. I believe it's Luke 24:10-13, something around there.
We'll put it on
I was
the
like,
screen.
I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. I was going to say, or you could just Google it, you know. But it's right after the crucifixion of Jesus, and it's after they roll the stone away, and Mary Magdalene is like, hey, the tomb is empty, and she goes and she tells everybody. And then we have Cleopas and an unnamed disciple, and they're heading back to Emmaus, the town that they're from. And so while they're on the way there, a stranger approaches them and asks them, like, hey, what's going on? Why are you so sad? And they say, are you the only one that hasn't heard, what's happened, what's going on? And so they kind of recount the events of the last, couple days, and then this stranger, kind of reminds them of all of the promises and all the scripture references that we look back to now as people of faith, that kind of spell out everything that Jesus needed to do as the Messiah. And once they get to Emmaus, he acts like he's going to continue on, and Cleopas and the other disciples say, hey man, it's getting kind of late, you should stay with us. And they invite him in, and he goes in and joins them for dinner, and then he takes bread and he blesses it and he breaks it, and it's in that moment that those disciples recognize Jesus. It's like a big, like, what? It says their eyes were opened. And then they look at each other and they're like, didn't we feel that? Like, weren't our hearts burning? Like, shouldn't we have recognized him? And of course, as like anybody, I think would be, if they realize that Jesus was in their presence, they run back to Jerusalem and they're like, hey, you'll never guess what just happened. And that's kind of where the story ends. And it's like, now everybody knows that Jesus has been resurrected. And so I think for me personally, I'll just kind of share why it's my favorite, and then you can jump in wherever you like. Is it really, like I said, gives us the opportunity to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of that unnamed disciple. It's giving us this opportunity to kind of let us imagine that we are that person. How many times have we experienced something, and looking back, we realized that Jesus was there, but in the moment, our eyes were closed, like we couldn't see him, whether it's because of, grief or pain or loss, whatever it was that's keeping us from seeing him. We miss those opportunities, and sometimes all it takes is one little thing that'll help him to reveal himself to us. And so I think that's, like I said, a really big reason why this is one of my favorite stories, is just because we do get that opportunity to kind of put ourselves in that position, but also because this is one that does kind of open up the door to talk about what it means to be an intentional disciple, knowing that we are being called to certain things, and it all kind of starts with this pivotal moment, right? Because how many times do we experience things and we're just like, is this it? Like, this is all that God has planned for me? Like, I don't understand. Like, I thought it was supposed to be more. And, Father John has this really great saying of, you have to have a Good Friday in order to have Resurrection Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so it's understanding that we do have to go through those difficult things. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you get to have that Resurrection Sunday. The veil is lifted, and you can look back and see, like, I wasn't walking alone. He was walking with me. Mm-hmm. And so I think having, like I said, those two big themes play out for me is really important. And I think it, like I said, it does come at a pivotal moment in Holy Week, because we are getting ready to to read through the Passion and to experience that crucifixion and get to Resurrection Sunday, which is coming up. So I don't know if there's anything you want to share.
You know, I find it really interesting in the story. It says unnamed disciple. It makes me wonder why. Why is it unnamed disciple instead of giving you a name? And truly, it makes me feel like, well, what if I'm meant to be that disciple? Because we're all called to discipleship. So it would make sense, unnamed disciple, insert name here, you know, kind of like that. And so it makes me feel like, okay, well, would I know if I'm talking to Jesus? You know, if he comes and is talking to me on the road or wherever it is that I'm at, will I know that it's Jesus? You know, and I think part of it is treating everyone like if they were Jesus, because they were, you know, they didn't have to invite him to eat with them, and they did. They opened their doors, and, you know, Jesus was like, well, how could you not recognize me? But also the fact that Jesus said that and broke bread, and that's when they were like, that's
It's like a light bulb went off.
yeah, exactly, you know. And I don't blame them, because, you know, for them, for all they knew, they had just heard that he had passed away, that he was crucified. And so putting myself in their shoes, it's like, if I go to your house, I should treat you like Jesus, right? And if I see someone out on the street, should I confront them and treat them as if they're Jesus, or just a stranger and can ignore them? You know, I think we're all called to being kind to one another, and especially in those moments when they were feeling hopelessness, you know, hopeless. They had, you know, I don't want to say they lost faith, but definitely they were like, why did this happen?
Right.
And like you said, that Father John says, you have to have a Good Friday in order to have Easter Sunday. So you have to have the bad in order to get the good later. And sometimes we just don't realize that whatever it is we're going through when we're feeling hopelessness, we need that other person to feel like we're being loved and to love. You know, just how Jesus in that moment obviously gave them hope. And I think Jesus acts through those people that we don't necessarily know, but he's in those people that we encounter every day. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the story, just the unnamed disciple. Put yourself there and be that disciple.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you highlighted that too, because I think that something that we do tend to forget is that we are, as intentional disciples, that's part of intentional discipleship, is recognizing that everybody has Jesus within them, and we do have to treat them as such. And, you know, like one of my favorite quotes is, it comes from one of the, I think it's from Pope Francis, and it talks about how the Jesus within us has to meet the Jesus in other people. And I think it's for that specific reason. Like when we're talking about the road to Emmaus, you don't know who you're going to come across. And just going back to the other thing that you mentioned about, like, you know, that's something that we do think about is like, will we recognize Jesus, or how could I not recognize him?
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we do think about. I know personally that is like a worry of mine, is that, you know, like when the time comes, like, am I going to recognize him? And I think when we do take on that approach of just treating everybody as Jesus would, as if they were Jesus, you know, and he says, you know, what you do to the least of these, you do to me as well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really big, like, important thing, is that, you know, we do, like, if we just carry ourselves that way, then, you know, when the time is right and he is revealed to us, we'll be like, yeah, like, we kind of knew it, you know, because you could feel that. So yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Well, thanks, Sam. You know, I think it's important, something to highlight. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. But we hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I think this brings us to the end of our ministry minutes for this episode. We really hope you guys enjoyed it. Good luck with your Lenten journeys as we reach the end. And happy Easter, everyone. We hope you guys enjoy it. Spend time with family. Go to Mass. Don't forget. Very important.
Exactly.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye. Hey everybody, welcome back to There's a Saint for That. This week our saint is Saint Patrick. We'll just get into it, I think.
Yeah.
And the first fun fact, and I didn't know this, is that St. Patrick was actually born in Britain. So he is not Irish, and I didn't know that. So I think that's bananas. I would have gone my whole life thinking he was Irish. He was also somebody who was fearless, humble, pious, and gentle.
And did you know that at the age of 16, his family's estate was attacked by Irish raiders, and he was taken as a slave to Ireland, where he was a slave for about 6 years, I believe.
That's how he got there.
Yeah, that's how he was introduced to Ireland, and where the whole St. Patrick that we know today originated from.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's because he was taken as a slave, so I didn't know that. That was surprising to me as well.
Yeah, well, another fun fact is after being imprisoned for about 6 years, St. Patrick had a dream, and he dreamt that he heard a voice who he thought was God, telling him, like, hey man, it's time to do something. We gotta escape, we gotta get out of here. So that's what he did, which is pretty cool.
And while he was, I don't know if you knew this, but while he was a prisoner or a slave, he was a shepherd. That's the job he had, because he was still young, so they didn't want to put him to work in the fields or anything like that. So they forced him to be a shepherd, and he heard the voice of God and to go to the ocean there was a boat, and the story says he had to travel 25 miles to the port, and he did it one night, just kept walking, didn't look back, and when he got to the port. Right before he was going to board, there's always someone checking who's getting on, and they asked him, "Where are you coming from, or what's your business?" And he said, "I'm running away."
Oh wow!
So he was honest.
Yeah, that's bold.
And he took a chance at it, and the story goes that the guy who was checking didn't say a word. He just said, "Get on."
Nice.
So I don't know if he just felt pity or if that was the Lord right there.
Compassion.
Yeah.
It's yeah, man, we're gonna get you out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, thanks, boat guy,
Yeah.
for being nice to St. Patrick.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, do you want to do your snake one?
Yeah. So there's another.
That one's really interesting.
Yeah. So after he escapes Ireland, he goes back home, and after hearing the Lord, he was raised Catholic by his family, and so he just had this urge and yearning for priesthood. So he becomes a priest, and funny enough, they send him back to Ireland to, introduce the Catholic faith and start a mission there and everything. And they, one of the things they say about St. Patrick is that he didn't like snakes, so he drove all the snakes to the edge of I don't know.
Like a cliff?
Yeah, the edge of a cliff, and they all fell into the ocean. And that's why in Ireland you won't find too many snakes on land. You'll see them only in the water.
Wow.
So whether that's true,
Ireland.
yeah, is that true or not? I don't know, but that's
But that's how the story goes.
Yeah. Just so you know, another story goes as to why he's a saint of Ireland is that he actually brought people back from the dead. He resurrected people.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's interesting how he became a saint and the people saw these miracles. And, take it with a grain of salt. I think, there's no evidence to say, but it's definitely something that people have shared throughout the years. And then, the reason why St. Patrick and St. Patrick's Day is associated with, the Irish drinking their whiskey is because as St. Patrick was dying, he told everyone not to be sad, to be happy for him that he's going to continue going on to the next life with God, and to celebrate with a shot of whiskey.
Wow,
because to the Irish, a shot of whiskey is like to Mexican is what tequila is to Mexicans.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
so more of a celebration of life, like do
Yeah.
this in memory of me.
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
thing. Yeah, which is neat.
Mhm.
That is a fun fact. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings us to our final fun fact, which is that St. Patrick was actually never canonized by the Catholic Church. So he's not officially a saint. He is the patron saint of Ireland, as we did mention. And it's not that, it's because he didn't do anything special, or that, they're just like, we're just not going to canonize this guy. It's mostly because at the time, there was no formal canonization process. So that's really the main reason why he was never canonized as a saint. yeah, so I think with that does bring us to the end of our There's a Saint for That segment. As always, we do invite you guys to drop suggestions down in the comments below. If there is one that you're particularly a fan of, or maybe an obscure one that we might not know, please share it with us, because clearly we are enjoying learning all these fun facts, and we are learning things that we didn't know, which is awesome. So please do that. Please share them with us. You can also send us a DM on Instagram or Facebook, or if you guys would like, you can also email us. And you can find our emails on the website, and I'll drop them in the description box down below. But other than that, we will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Bye, guys.